With any behavioral addiction, such as sex and pornography addiction, or social media addiction, um, or computer use addiction, what you're looking for is real time thought awareness. What that means is you want to, in real time, realize and be aware of what exactly you are thinking, to be able to verbalize it and to categorize it, and to also perhaps identify the feelings and behaviors associated with those thoughts. Um, yeah, so because every action, every behavior, every act requires a thought, a motivation perhaps, but sometimes even the motivation comes after the actual behavior. So what I'm saying is, a lot of times your unconscious mind is driving your behavior, but the unconscious mind uh, even is creating thoughts. It's associated with thoughts. So, for instance, yeah, your unconscious mind might be leading you towards going to a certain website. Um, but during that process, you will still have thoughts such as a rationalization, such as, well, I just want to see what's going on this website, or I'm not going to look at any suggestive photographs on this website. I'm just going to read some news. Uh, Other types of thoughts might be a planning thought. No one's going to be home Tuesday afternoon. What might I do all alone? Um, that's the beginning of a plan. You have fantasy thoughts. Oh, once I get on that website, I think I see a picture in my mind. Um, and you have recollection websites. Oh, last time I was on that website, ooh, that was really fun. And you're imagining what happened. You're remembering it. Um, and then there's just a sort of a generic bucket called the Temptations. Not the great Motown singing group, but temptation type thoughts, which might simply be like, I really like to do that. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that feel good? Um, the temptation bucket is the most sort of vague, and yeah, sometimes you just have to sort of say, "Hey, I'm having a temptation," but it's hard to put words to it. Another type of thought might have to do with the social aspect of your addiction. So you might imagine yourself chatting it up with someone online um, that has something to do with your addiction, your behavioral addiction. Yeah, you might make an excuse that has to do with, oh, I need to answer this text message or this direct message that I got from so and so. But when you answer that direct message, you are re-engaging in your behavior, in the behavior that you're addicted to. All right. Well, so how do you gain real-time self-awareness of your thoughts? Well, you have to do thought tracking. So as a beginning step in your thought tracking journey, I would suggest um, writing down the five categories of, or six categories of thoughts, which include temptations, fantasies, um, planning, recollection, rationalizations. Rationalizations are those excuses and justifications that give you the green light to go ahead and do something. And then we have social thoughts. Um, did I skip one? Planning. Did I say planning? Planning thoughts as well. Um, and every time you have one of these thoughts, you write down the thought and you write down what category it was in, and you write down um, where and when you had the thought and what you were doing, what was the context. Were you feeling such and such a way? Were you in the middle of, making breakfast? Or was it when you got home at night and you had nothing to do? Um, what were you feeling? Were you feeling especially aroused at that moment? And yeah, so the context. Um, and so, yeah, you write all that down. number one, that interrupts your process. So typically, when you have an addiction, you just have an automatic process where the thought leads to, for instance, an emotion leads to a thought, the thought leads to a behavior, and you're not thinking, you're not interrupting your process. You're not like questioning what you're doing necessarily. And so that's how you end up so easily performing that behavior that you're addicted to, because you're not interrupting it, you're not thinking about your thoughts. So what you also want to do is you want to have meta thoughts. And the first step of having a meta thought is, well, I'm having that thought. Realize that you're having that thought, and then you have a thought about that thought. Oh, does that thought make sense? Does this rationalization make sense? If no one gets hurt, then there's nothing wrong with it. Does that make sense? It might make sense, but it also might be a dangerous thought. Do I really want to think that way all the time? That allows me to do all sorts of things because I've just rationalized all the consequences away. So once you have the thought, you have a meta thought. And then once you have the meta thought, and you're aware that you're having a thought, you can have counter thoughts. You could think about the consequences, like I said. So when you interrupt the process and have a meta thought, you're giving yourself 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, an hour perhaps, to do something else, to think of something else to do, or to simply do something else without thinking. When you develop your thought tracking, your thought awareness, and then develop your alternative behaviors, eventually you will be able to automatically put your brain and your body on a different track. And that's your goal, to automatically, once you realize you have a thought that is related to your addiction, automatically start doing something that is completely off track of your addiction process. That's the ultimate goal. It all starts with thought awareness. When you start tracking your thoughts, you may not actually realize that you had a particular thought until hours later. You might not realize that you had those that train and that chain of thoughts until after you've perhaps performed the behavior that you're addicted to, and you afterwards you're like realize, oh, what did I just do? Oh my God, how did this get started? How did I? Oh, this was the thought process that I had. Well, even though it's 8 hours later, even though it's 16, 24 hours later, write it down. And eventually you'll be able to be aware of those thoughts sooner and sooner. It'll be 8 hours, it'll be 4 hours, it'll be 2 hours, it'll be 1 hour, it'll be 10 minutes, and eventually it will be immediately. You'll have the thought, and immediately you'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm having that thought again. What am I going to do now? And that's your end goal. All right. This goes for every behavioral addiction, whether it's binge eating, whether it's prostitutes, whether it's pornography, whether you might be addicted to, who knows, just lying around. So, anyways, yeah. If you like what I do, support me through my Buy Me a Coffee or whatnot. Leave some comments, please, please, please. Leave some comments. Other people struggling with these behavioral addictions want to hear your experiences. Thank you very much. And yeah, I look forward to making more videos soon. Bye-bye.